Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the podcast. This episode of The Revolution is brought to you by Vodcast TV. Now, of course, Vodcast TV is the shared podcast studio platform for Johannesburg here at Rosebank Mall, and it's where all of our Marco Martin's Revolution podcasts are recorded. If you've ever wanted to do a podcast, but you don't know all the technical bits about microphones or don't have the studio space to execute it, it is absolutely the best way to do your own podcast. Check us out now, vodcasttv.com/revolution for 15% off your first order. My guest today is Mr. Weslee Lauder, good friend of mine. We've known each other for easily 15 years, if not longer, possibly. It could be 16 years.
I think it's 18.
Oh, goodness, we're old. Anyway, Mr. Weslee Lauder, a performance artist, everything to do with the theater industry, a choreographer, director, producer, actor extraordinaire. Everyone give it up for Mr. Weslee Lauder.
A revolution is a fundamental and relatively sudden change in political power. An organization which occurs when the population revolts. This is the Marco Martin's Revolution, powered by Vodcast TV. Visit vodcasttv.com for more.
Weslee, welcome to the podcast. Thank you for joining me. We were having a chat before we went live here, and you've fairly recently come back from China in the midst of coronavirus.
I feel like I actually just missed it because it was the day that we were leaving China, which we were scheduled to leave in any case, was as we landed, suddenly we got the news that they had shut Wuhan down. So we were like, whoa, it felt like it was like chasing us.
Were you at Wuhan at any point during your travels?
It was about four and a half months ago. So we sort of call it China 1.0 and China 2.0. So we went to China for 3 months, performing Matilda the musical, and then Hong Kong got cancelled. And the reason why was because of the riots that were happening in Hong Kong. And they thought it would be very unsafe to have a group of children, because the show has children in it, being in a sort of volatile environment. Exposed to them. Exactly. So then they said, okay, cool, we're going to send you home. So we did. We came home for 6 weeks, and then we went back to China. Wuhan was our first city, which was in October last year.
My goodness. I had no idea that you were in actual Wuhan. So for anyone who doesn't know, China is incredibly vast, and travels fairly easy in China. So you can catch a train from one city to another. It's incredibly fast, and people travel a lot. So hence why there was the big fear of the virus spreading so quickly, is that people are able to travel in China quite easily. Another thing is this whole coronavirus happened in the midst of what us in the Western world would deem our Christmas period.
Yes.
So like here in South Africa, it shuts down 15th December to 15 January. Good luck getting anything done in Johannesburg, because it's completely shut down. And from the end of January and early February this year was Spring Festival in China, or their Chinese New Year, and everything sort of shut down. But it all sort of happened in the midst of this coronavirus threat as well.
It's true. And the last city was Nanjing, which is very close to Shanghai. And it was the last week. It was the week before the Spring Festival, the New Year. And it was from then that things started shutting down completely. So it was very weird. I felt like I was in some weird Contagion movie, because you just sort of walk the streets, and what usually is a very, very busy China starts turning into this barren, dead wasteland.
Yeah, because a lot of the people in China are obviously in the major cities for employment, much like the rest of the world and much like South Africa. But many of them, their hometowns are from more rural areas, several hours away from that major city.
In Mongolia, all up into the middle of China.
Right, yeah. So northern China and central China, and then even western China, which is
closer to Russia, Tibet.
Exactly. And it's amazing how different the people are from western China. When you say someone looks Chinese, it's amazing how diverse Chinese people themselves can look. And purely the heart of them. You're pretty tall. So one of the things from being in Eastern China for you must be quite fun being much taller than everyone.
Yes. And what do I add to that? I mean, it's what's interesting is I think what I really enjoyed about China and the opportunity to go there for really what felt like I was living there for 6 months.
That is living.
It's living. It's being exposed to a completely different culture. And in China, because there's billions of people there. I think I read recently that there was like 1.5 billion people.
Insane.
I could be very wrong, but the idea is that seeing that many people that are that many people seeing other people that are different, because a lot of and I spoke to a lot of my Chinese friends that I had made in the 6 months that I was there, say they're not exposed to African people, black people, South Africans, whatever,
right.
Girls with blonde hair. I mean, so often, they would whip their phones out and literally just walk up to you and take pictures with you. And
I've got a really funny story along those lines, but carrying on.
Having a beard, they would literally walk up to me and go,
because they struggle to grow beards.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And it was such a, initially we were quite like taken aback. Oh my God, what's going on? And then you sort of get used to it, and then you just realize that, unfortunately, much like we go to China, we go, oh my God, or we, a group of people come to South Africa and you've never seen those people before. It's a bit like a freak show. You just want to look and watch.
I think we as South Africans, we're spoiled with diversity. We really are the rainbow nation. I think if you live in South Africa and you've never seen a white person, a black person, or a Chinese person, or something along those lines, I don't know where you live, because it's impossible. In South Africa, we really have a rich diversity of people from all over the world. So it's odd for us to go somewhere like China and be seen
as an alien.
Completely. Yeah. And I think if you're not from one of the major cities, or if you don't live there, like a Shanghai. So when I traveled to Shanghai, my first time to China, we were in a queue for going up the Shanghai Tower, the observation tower there. And we were in the queue for like 3.5 hours or something along those lines. It was during Chinese school holidays. So a lot of people they have a lot of domestic tourism in China. So a lot of people travel from central China, northern China, everywhere, to Shanghai for the holidays to experience the history of Shanghai, just see the big city. And anyway, so there were quite a few people in Shanghai at that time who aren't from Shanghai. So they'd never seen white people before, ever in their lives, ever. And we had this very odd situation where we're in the queue, and a guy sort of walks around from behind us in the queue. He sort of walks around, walks in front of us. And like we in a queue, so what are you doing in a queue? You're on your phone, sort of looking down. So I just feel this odd sensation that someone's like now walked around. He stands next to us for a bit and then walks back. And I'm thinking, oh, what's going on? Then I have a look behind me, and his wife's showing him pictures on his phone because he's come to take that he had to have a photo taken with white people. Like he had to stand next to white people. But they did it in such a way, they were just being polite in their own sort of way. They weren't trying to be offensive. So I had quite a bit of fun with that one. I just sort of turned around like, hey, you guys want to take a picture? Come. And then the excitement grew it grew between everyone in the queue. So like people started lining up to take photos like,
I feel like a celebrity.
Photo with you. You're like you're a celebrity.
I know.
Because that's literally, they've never seen a white person before.
I mean, so you can imagine seeing South African black people. So often I would sit with my cast members in Matilda, and they would discuss being taken pictures of, and the fact that the hair would be grabbed and whatever, and how difficult it was to sort of adjust to that. Very interesting culture.
And they find American black people culture very cool. I think that's something very cool, very in trend in China.
And very interesting, because like a lot of the hip hop. But I mean, yes. K-pop is so huge, and even in China. But I think what's interesting is that every single time we were asked where we were from, they automatically thought we were American.
Yes.
And maybe because that's the exposure.
That's
America,
absolutely
China,
the exposure.
Two superpowers, that's what it said.
It's the exposure in popular culture. It's also the exposure in who travels there.
Yeah.
So they don't see a lot of African travelers. So a lot of their black tourism is from America for them. I think the other big thing is they're big into American sports. So basketball is absolutely huge there at the moment.
Huge.
Massive. So I think that's a big part of why they think that like American black people are so cool. It's like the coolest type of people.
To say as well is that it's there are many Africans that go to China. It's just dependent on the city. So, for instance, when we were in Chongqing, lots of African American people, Ugandans, Africans, Cameroonian, very different, diverse, but also Chongqing is huge. It's like one of their major cities. But then you go to a very small city like Changsha. Well, it's huge, but it's small in that it's not as diverse as Chongqing or Shanghai or Beijing. And, then you're an alien. So it's very interesting.
And we were discussing this earlier. Small relative in China to small. Joburg's a small city in China. Their scale is absolutely giant.
So South Africa would be the size of the city. What's it? Shanghai, Changsha, like a little,
in terms of population.
In terms of size,
it's just giant.
It's
huge.
China is giant. I mean, I remember. So to get around, you would travel. I take the bullet train.
Bullet trains, yeah.
Or you would fly. Yeah. So to get from mainland China to Shanghai would take 2 hours. So that's what it takes for us to get from Cape Town to Joburg.
Yes.
And that's only the small tiny little area that you're covering. You're covering a tiny area.
Within their own province.
Within the own province, exactly. Yeah. So it's a huge place.
So speed train travel there, and it's something that the South African government has discussed for speed train travel from Durban to Joburg, Durban to Cape Town, and Cape Town to Joburg. Mm-hmm. That's sort of split via speed train. Would be hugely expensive to do, and it would disrupt so many other industries, including the air industry.
Yes.
And it's an incredible way to travel. But back to China, and specifically your show, Matilda. You play multiple characters in the performance, which is, I think a lot of people don't understand that this is fairly common for theatre. Normally one actor would play multiple characters in a theatre performance, unlike in film and television.
Yeah, in film and TV, you get given your character, you go...
Unless you're Eddie Murphy.
Yes, and then, or you have the money to be, unless of course you're doing awesome things like, what is that those wonderful Catherine Tate, where you get to create all these different characters and then do a sitcom around that, or Little Britain. But yeah, so I play a multiple role of characters in Matilda, and that often happens that the ensemble play a lot of the supporting roles, and then the supporting roles, those are sort of divided by we call them the principals, because they have they play one character, whereas the ensemble play a lot of the supporting roles, so we play actual characters in them, and also in the ensemble as well.
So the principal cast to a layman, these are like sort of your lead characters?
Yes, the leads.
So your characters in Matilda, and I think most people listening to the podcast or viewing it would be familiar with the characters from the feature film Matilda.
Yes, the one that...
Who are you playing? I know that you're the Trunchbull.
No, but I don't play the Trunchbull. No, so I'm the first cover of the Trunchbull.
Oh no, and that's disappointing.
I enjoy playing her though. She's crazy ass. I'm sorry, am I allowed to say ass?
You can say whatever the fuck you want.
Amazing. So, no, I cover the Trunchbull, but I play Sergei, the Russian mafia boss, which you don't see in the movie, and they talk about it in the book, but you don't really see it at all, and so Dennis Kelly decided to sort of flesh that out for the musical. Who's the writer of the musical, with Tim Minchin, who did the music and the lyrics. And then, so I play Sergei, the Russian mafia boss, and I play the balloon man, which is sort of like the first adult that you meet in the show, to sort of highlight the idea that the children are saying, my mommy says I'm a miracle, but they're really being nasty rats of human beings, pulling each other's hair and punching each other in the opening number. And then you see a sort of a party entertainer coming in, and that's who I play, who goes, gee, if these kids are miracles, and they're supposed to be 1 in a million, but like there's so many of them, please God, please take me home. So it's sort of like, that juxtaposition. And then I play a school bully, Rory, who's in the school playground, because all of the ensemble next to the kids also play school children.
Right.
In the playground and in school and whatever.
How do you guys depict that visually? I mean, obviously you're much larger than the children as full-grown adults.
Well, first of all, it's part of you, sort of the audience goes with it.
Right.
And they get the idea that these older kids are in high school, or juniors, whatever, and then the younger kids are just starting out.
Which is sort of a little bit different from the feature film, and I think this is important, is how obviously the theatre production, unlike for example, the theatre show Rent, which had the feature film produced after the stage production.
Yes.
Whereas Matilda's the inverse. The stage production was produced after the feature film, which anyway originally is based on the book, the novel. So it's about telling that same story and depicting the same spirit of the film, but doing it in a theatre way.
Yes.
And it's amazing how it can be quite different to put it in a context that will still make sense, but in a theatre way.
Very cool. And I mean, the differences are also cool because it's an American film, but it's an inherently English musical. The play
it's a
with
Roald
language.
Dahl.
It's a Roald Dahl play, a book. The play with the use of language and the idea that she's such a clever child and reading books and whatever. It's just such a young age, but it's. What was the question?
I don't know what it was. It's fine.
It's just the chat.
So we were just saying about how to depict the spirit within a theatre context, because we were discussing how the adults are being school kids. How, from my memory of the Matilda film, there were older kids in the school, but they weren't playing a central role. They weren't as featured.
Yeah, it's it's so cool because the only time you really see the older kids is in there are two instances. The first, well, there's three, but unless of course they're helping with a set change, because our Matilda sort of incorporates the school kids in the ensemble to do set changes, and then you see them really in the top of school song, which is basically we've got this group of older kids that come and intimidate these younger kids, and the audience is with you. They completely see it. And also the thing is, we're not acting like kids. We're sort of just acting. We're just being, we're not playing 11. We're just being school bullies. We're playing an energy rather than trying to be 11. Whatever. 13. I like to say that Rory, my character's failed maybe 7 times.
Right.
Because he's
still
particularly stupid, and that's the reason why he's balding. Maybe he's actually in his 30s. I don't know.
Walking his kids to school to the same classes that he's attending.
Exactly.
One of those. From a theatre perspective, a lot of costume is quite different to film and television. So with film and television, you can be more traditional in your costume and your dress. So you can wear something that's more convincing in a realism sort of way. So in film, as you know, you could dress normally as you would walking around, unless it's a period piece or something that's very specific that you want to portray. But jeans and a t-shirt is sort of fine. Whereas on the theatre stage, you have to drama it up because it has to tell a portion of your story.
Exactly. I always do, that's what makes it so difficult to put musicals onto film and TV, or to film musicals, because it's, we don't break into song in everyday life. I mean, I do, but that's because I
do as well.
Yeah,
but we're odd.
Exactly. And to me, if we were, I don't know, at a restaurant and suddenly you started singing, it would not matter to me, but to the person next to you it would, because that's not real life. People don't break into song. So the convention and giving into the convention and understanding and accepting it of watching a musical on film and TV is on the medium of film is difficult because it is a realistic medium.
But like you say, it's difficult. It doesn't necessarily mean it's impossible.
No,
it's just that there's so many musicals in film. Many of them have failed, and the real successes are such massive smash hits because it's really difficult to achieve a good one.
Yes, and when they do, it's massive.
It's massive.
But it's also got to do with getting... I remember my dad came to watch a musical I was in called Ragtime. Gee, it was decades ago.
And just for context, your dad's not a big theatre and musical person.
No.
Naturally, not at all.
Absolutely despises it. It's very interesting. And... So he came to watch Ragtime, and there was a scene, and while the scene was happening, there were people commenting on what was happening in the Ragtime, and through music, and then they walked across the stage, and he said to me, "But why did they walk through the kitchen?"
Because it's impractical.
Because no one's going to do that.
He's such a practical man.
Exactly. So, it's about sort of giving in, sort of just giving in, and whatever. But it's also, I don't know, making sure that you like in Chicago, the reason why we love it so much, the movie, is because that an opening shot is them zooming into her eye. And then as they zoom into the eye, you see all of these magnificent vaudevillian shots and whatever. And then I think immediately you understand that everything that is music is in her mind. and you go, okay, tick, I can accept this.
Right.
You know, for the on a realistic medium like film.
That's a very good example. I think that what they did very well in Chicago, in particular, is they try to intermesh a little bit of the theater spirit, like from the prison scenes to think, instead of trying to make a hyper realistic film, they try to play in a little bit of both worlds, where they try to give you a little bit of the theater spirit, where it doesn't have to be completely accurate, but as long as it helps express the emotion of that moment.
Absolutely.
I found they did that quite well in Rent as well.
Rent is really difficult because it's a rock opera.
Yes.
And, you know, because people don't sing their thoughts all the time. I mean, it's really difficult to do that. It makes no sense to me. But, like, I mean, when I saw Rent in 2000, and oh, God, I'm showing my age. Decades ago. I'm just going to say on the Ark. And does it start? Oh, yes. It starts with him filming through a camera.
Yes.
And then suddenly you see that, okay, this is about someone's opinion about what's happening. You know, or you are then the third person witnessing something.
Right.
Like in Chicago, the theatrical element of seeing the things happen in her mind's eye makes complete sense. Why?
Yeah.
Because we all have very massive imaginations. You go tick. The minute you see that what we're watching is him filming a whole lot of things, you go, okay, cool, I'm seeing it through the eye of a lens. I'm not necessarily seeing it for real.
Yes, so
you know
it's
what I mean?
not like the traditional film of trying to immerse you into the real situation, almost like you're a fly on the wall of reality.
Exactly.
You're just being shown the perception of someone else, or someone else's view of it, or it's very much their art as well. So it's like, this is the way that this person's trying to express the lives of these people.
Yeah.
So it's a very clever angle to take on Rent, which is one of my favorite musicals. I think it's just musically,
it's really cool.
incredible. Yeah. Especially the film adaptation, where they like sort of zhuzhed up the rock element to really give it more bang, you know, compared to the original stage production. I think a lot of the stage productions have followed thereafter. I think the original score has now sort of copied a little bit of the movie. I don't know how familiar you are.
I don't
with it.
know.
I never
I'm not
watched
too
the
familiar.
original. I do know that they did make some changes. I think it was like one of the musicians from Green Day or something was brought in for the film to make a few changes to rock it up. I'm probably lying. Someone look it up.
Yeah. Sounds like it's something to discuss.
Anyway, your favorite musicals?
Can I choose 5?
20.
Okay, I'm going to be here forever.
Okay, so I'm quite a big musical fan, which is odd for 30-something-year-old straight white boy from Johannesburg South. You know, it's not, I don't exactly, not able to go around with my childhood friends and discuss musicals that we love. Luckily, I went to the National School of the Arts. That's probably where my love for musicals came from.
It's possible.
And luckily, we have friends like these that we can discuss it with. So I love musicals. And strangely enough, my girlfriend isn't as mad about them. But we really loved Sweeney Todd.
I was in Sweeney Todd. Sweeney Todd was one of my musicals that I loved. When I was studying, growing up, not growing up, that's a lie. When I was studying and I was exposed to it, I was like, gee, I love this piece, because I'm a very big horror movie fan. And suddenly on stage, there's a horror
Yes.
musical. What? And I was so intrigued by it, because I wanted to see how do they if you're not familiar with Sweeney Todd, it's about this man who was wronged, a barber, and he comes back after many years of being sort of ostracized in a prison, and he gets out, and when he comes back, he wants to seek revenge on the people who
Wronged him.
And eventually you find out that he kills a whole lot of people by slitting their throats.
Yeah, not only so, it's sort of this descent into the chaotic psychosis of a person who's wronged. Not only is he exacting revenge on the people who wronged him, he's also sort of has all this collateral damage in between along the way.
Yeah. And then they him and Mrs. Lover turn those people into meat pies, and they become massive famous people who sell delicious pies.
During a shortage of meat availability
during the Industrial Revolution.
The Industrial Revolution. What a wonderful story.
Love Sweeney Todd also.
I love Sweeney Todd as well. I think it was one of my favorites on stage, one of my least favorites in film.
Yes, hated the film.
Horrible.
You know what? I love Johnny Depp.
I'm a
absolutely
massive
adore
fan
him.
as
And
well.
Helena Bonham Carter, also to a certain extent, like, hey, dude, I
I
don't want
thought her performance was actually pretty good.
I feel like she's the same all the time. I'm so tired of that woman. I'm like, yes, okay, I'm not going to take away from your years of experience and contribution to film and TV. I'm not going to do that because that's stupid. And, but for fuck's sake, sir.
Do you find Johnny Depp more diverse than her? Certainly, hey? Quite a lot more.
I'd like to see Johnny Depp in a plain Jane role, playing a dad.
He's a little bit closer to that in the was it Finding Neverland or
No.
not Finding Neverland? There's one with the young guy from August Rush. What's his name? Very famous young actor.
Sorry.
Anyway, he did a film with him, and he's sort of more plain Jane there. But I think he's well known for in-depth characters and especially something with a psychological
very well
edge.
known for his character work.
Yes.
Because all people are characters, I suppose.
Yeah.
But I just want to see him play a dad. I just want to see him play the president. Like that sort of, like where it doesn't require him to sort of physically change anything and have quirk. Just for something different.
So he has played real people quite well, quite compelling with Blow, the cocaine movie.
I should watch it.
You should watch it. So that's based on a real person, but it's still an extraordinary person. Once again, this is a person who was bringing cocaine from Colombia into the United States.
Okay, yeah.
He's also done, but once again, most of what he does, especially post Pirates of the Caribbean era, is characters.
Edward Scissorhands.
A lot of Johnny Depp's work with obviously Tim Burton, who I was a massive fan of Tim Burton originally. But once again, this criticism you have of Helena Bonham Carter is it's a lot of the same.
And do we then ask the question, what else? What else can you do?
Yeah.
Is this the only thing you can do? Because, okay, cool, you're a master at it. Not going to say that. Carry on doing it. But
have a successful career.
That's how I felt about watching The Lion King on stage. Is that a travesty?
It's a travesty because it's one of our massive successes from a stage in South Africa. Because, I think it's no secret to anyone the turmoil that the theatre industry sort of goes through in South Africa.
Yes.
It's like every few years you have a little bit of a renaissance, and the interest in theatre in South Africa has a little bit of a bounce and a hop, and then you'll go through 1 or 2 years of
or five
or longer. Yeah, and I think that's global, where the theatre industry it takes its knocks. It's obviously it's not commercially popular. You sort of have theatre fans, and then to try and get the general public interested in theatre, once in a while you'll get a portion of them. A lot of the time you'll have none of them.
In South Africa, I suppose it's different in Broadway and West End because you have a very large group of people that watch it, tourists.
But once again, it's a massive population like the United States.
Yes.
And then it's also only West End and Broadway. And they also have theatre communities in Ohio, and then those theatre productions struggle to make ends meet.
True. Touring productions and stuff like that in the States and in West London, that's it's. I think it's also got to do with taste. Like, what do you in South Africa? There's a very big, the idea that we have an audience that wants to watch Cats. We have an audience that wants to watch Phantom, and if you recycle that every 5 years, you're guaranteed to make your money because your initial investment is so much.
Yes.
It's like that's how Macbeth makes sense. Joseph and his amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, because if you put those on, you are guaranteed to make money if they are good productions. If they're shitty productions, then, well, sorry.
Which we don't really do. I think the level of South African productions tends to be very high.
I think so.
And that's why we're able to export them to the East, which is a big part of the renaissance of the South African theatre industry, is being able to export these shows to the East.
Yes. So, that's sort of what you do when you do a big show in South Africa. When you land a big show, you're almost guaranteed to know that show is going to tour. Because it's not enough to just put it on in South Africa.
Yes.
When it comes to from your initial investment.
Yeah.
It's not enough. And, a lot of people go, why are the theatre tickets so expensive? Well, It's a lot of money.
Costs a lot of money.
It costs a lot of money to put on a show, and a really good show costs a lot of money.
And look, if the theatre tickets were cheaper, would you sell out the theatre? You know, would we be able to, would we attract more people to the theatre?
I don't know.
I don't think so.
I don't know.
Not necessarily.
No, and also if you want to know
Perhaps one or two. But
perhaps. So 500 Rand a ticket. Oh my gosh, that's so expensive. Okay, cool. In China, it was 1,800 Rand for a ticket for Matilda, and people were buying it.
yeah, and they sell out theatres.
And
there.
we sold out. Not completely, but often cities were sold out. Shanghai, Beijing, sold out.
Yeah.
And
Look, they have massive buying potential in the East, and in China specifically, the capital availability there is huge. But I think the sad point of what we're getting at here is that you have these guaranteed productions, but South African theatre has a massive history, and we have a lot of local productions that are perhaps given to the wayside, like locally written and directed shows that speak to the South African history rather than these massive international hits that perhaps don't get the spotlight that they deserve because of this playing it safe mentality that the theatre industry has to abide to so that it doesn't disappear.
this has got to do with the idea of commercialism.
That's
So, and that's musicals. That's how you're going to make your money. That's what people want to see. They want to go to the theatre for an experience. And it's really difficult, and to guarantee that, putting on something that, I don't know, discusses our history might not necessarily be really wonderful for the palate just yet. I don't know.
Because we have really loads of South African written plays.
Yeah,
and
so many.
Particularly dramatic.
But also, what about, let's look at the theatres and the industry and the foundations and things like that have the facility to produce work from young and up and coming writers, directors, theatre makers that tell stories from a different angle. Maybe we're tired of hearing the same stories. I'm not saying that we are, but the question is, are we? I don't know. Do you want to watch something? Do I want to see The Island regurgitated again? No. It's a hit. Fantastic. It sells out. Great. There's a hit, for instance, that we were speaking about. But we've got so many stories to tell, but I want to hear what the youth has to say. I want to hear what, a 25-year-old person who's dealt with rape has to say from a different perspective. We can tell stories that don't necessarily have to always be or to land on things that we are so used to.
Are we telling the rape story a bit too much in South Africa?
Well,
a theatre. It's a very prominent part of our world.
I don't think we're telling it enough.
You don't think we're telling it enough? Because I think it's a very prominent theme in South African theatre writing. Am I incorrect?
I think, and it's dependent on what you're watching.
Okay.
I don't think we're telling it enough.
Because it's prominent in our poetry.
It's prominent in our poetry. It's prominent in our protest. It's but we're not telling stories about it. We're not at all.
Right, and it's a big part of the ongoing struggle of South Africans, particularly the impoverished.
Enough stories, because it is something that we deal with daily, and hourly, minute by minute. Yeah. But there's Tepang, which is that heart-wrenching story about the girl that was raped by her uncle. The 2-year-old girl that was raped, or 5 months, please forgive me if I don't know the age, but there's that, and that made a really big, there was a massive following to that.
Yes.
Good, but that was also 15 to 16 years ago, decades ago. So what about what's happening in 2020, 2019? I wrote a play called The Last Supper. It's about male rape, male abuse against the queer community in the early 1900s in Richmond, Cape Town. Put it on at Grahamstown. It was hailed as brutal, which for me was magnificent because that's exactly what I wanted it to do. But it was not visually brutal, not at all. What was brutal was the subject matter, because we don't speak about male rape and male molestation, sodomy or whatever, and we don't speak about it enough, even though it does happen. And what was brutal was the imagination of the audience, because the rape scene that you witness, there's no physical rape, it's just what you hear. So it was just two people speaking, standing opposite each other, and people had to listen to them speak about what was happening. And they imagined that in their mind's eye. And it was brutal and amazing. But like, you know, there's a story. I'm not printing my own play. I'm just saying, like, there's a story.
You should. You should.
Maybe I'll put it on again. I don't know.
I think that this is the sort of thing that we should be doing more of. I think the problem with the theatre is its ability to expose in its region. So once again, this is why theatre productions tour. That's, first of all, how you're able to make an income. Second of all, it's how you're able to expose it to multiple people. If you're putting a theatre production on in the same place for a course of 2 months, you still only have that same audience span to market to. So your first few nights sell pretty well for people to come and see. But then again, all of the theatre followers in that region, you're likely to have already appealed to them. So your last few evenings of the production tend to taper off at times, depending.
It's also really difficult because all of the theatres are in these massive foot traffic areas.
Casinos
and things, you know, where you're guaranteed to have foot traffic.
Thank God for the casinos, by the way, because they're able to generate their income off of all these different revenue streams. So they're able to take a loss on the theatre productions because as long as it brings some fee to them.
What you don't know is that these theatres are often receiving houses. So sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes the casinos don't necessarily put up the capital to put on a production.
Right.
They just receive a production that's already been made, created, rehearsed.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. Sometimes they do. So Rock of Ages that I choreographed, that money, that capital was put up by Tsogo-san. You know, and luckily enough, it went on for a second season. So it was in Gold Reef City for a bit, and then it went to the Monte Casino for a bit, which was last year. And, you know, luckily there, you've got a company that's going to put up the initial capital to put on a production, you know, in the casino. Sometimes it doesn't, or more often than not, that doesn't happen.
No, so you have a very small pool of producers from an executive standpoint who are funding the theatre industry of South Africa.
Yeah.
And then thereafter, it's about the return on that initial expenditure. And that's where the casinos are at least providing some of that return. So without the casino industry, it would be even more difficult for that small pool of executives to fund these productions actually being created.
I think what's interesting as well is that I think, you know, you're guaranteed for things because people want experiences. Like, I mean, you know, I know so many people who don't mind spending 500 Rand on a theatre ticket and they're going to take their wife, or they're going to take their kids and it's going to cost 2 grand for the tickets, but that's okay because they're going to Monte Casino and they're going to have an experience. They can go for dinner. They know that their car is safe. They can go and get ice cream after the theatre show, you know, and that experience in itself is an outing that's amazing and they don't mind that. Then they're happy for that. They're happy to do that. But, you know, if you're going to go to the theatre that's sort of a little bit secluded, the restaurant's really crappy, you know, the theatre ticket isn't too expensive. And
without mentioning the Nelson Mandela Theatre in Bloemfontein directly.
I'm not talking about them at all. I still do believe that.
No, so that's a wonderful theatre.
I've worked there so often.
It's really a wonderful theatre, and actually the setup of the space is incredible. And luckily, there's been a gentrification of the region anyway.
Yeah.
But a few years ago, it was a place that people didn't want to go to.
Yes.
But luckily now, like I said, that's improved. The gentrification of the area, they got good parking. The restaurant's not actually bad.
Yeah.
And then there's also a lot of restaurants in the area, and you can feel pretty safe traveling there now.
Absolutely.
So that's one of the pros for the theatre industry. But how do we I think that theatre has an opportunity to appeal to a much larger audience now with the internet.
Yeah.
I think that how is it that we as South Africans, we're actually a massive theatre nation. There's no way that we're putting on as many theatre productions as we are. I don't see other African countries doing theatre to the extent that we do. Certainly not. There are not many. Perhaps really all the way in the north.
To be honest with you, I don't know much about it, so I don't.
We'd be lying. So,
I'd be lying. Yeah.
But I will lie. I don't care.
Okay.
People can correct me afterwards.
Cool.
Because we are here this is why we're exposed to it. And relative to the amount of revenue generated by the theatre industry in general, we still put on a lot of productions.
We do, but
it's difficult. It's very difficult. And I understand that people struggle to make ends meet, and a lot of these plays only just about break even. Sometimes they lose money, and when they are profitable, it's not massive enough, and this is why there's not that much investment. But how is it that we haven't utilized the streaming services like Showmax or someone who's South African in the context, so that we can bring these theatre productions to people in Pofadder? You know, you could have theatre fans around the whole country that aren't able to go to a theatre. You're not necessarily going to go to a small town and put on a production because there's only 10 people in that small town. But 10 people from every small town around everywhere is a lot of people that you can expose it to, and it's a different revenue stream.
To be very honest with you, I don't know too much. I do know, for instance, the Panto gets aired by Mnet yearly, you know, and if it's in that sort of vein, then it would be cool if we could bring theatre productions that aren't necessarily smash hits, because the Panto is a smash hit in South Africa.
So the Janice Honeyman pantomime that you're referring to yearly, it's wonderful and it's really fun.
Yeah, Christmas time.
Yeah, and I find it a little bit old-fashioned and very safe. So not that I don't enjoy it. I think it's really fun. It does what it does very well, and that's why it's always guaranteed money sort of for them. So it's easy to get behind, and it's brilliant in its own way.
Spectacular.
But, yeah, so but I think that there's sort of a craving from theatre goers for something more and something deeper, perhaps darker, and stuff like that. So it's something less safe. And I think that this is perhaps the space where that needs to be introduced to some of the digital mediums, you know?
I think that's very interesting, and I mean, why not?
Let's pitch it. Wesley, let's go. Let's get going.
Let's get going. Showmax, come and film the play that I'm directing later this year, can't say what, and then let's air it.
Yeah, I think then people don't have to worry about the ticket price. They don't have to worry about having to go out somewhere. They don't have to worry about where they're located. And they can do it whenever. It can be a Wednesday night or a Thursday night, or
I mean, but then
Thursday
how do you guarantee that people just won't watch that
and then not go
and
to
not
the
go to
theatre?
the theatre? Because they know that it's going to happen. They go, okay, cool, don't worry, I'm not going to go and watch Marco, the play, because I know that it's going to be on Showmax next week, so I'm just going to watch that.
Why do people go see Metallica live in concert when they can Spotify all their albums?
Because seeing Metallica is different, because Metallica is an international band.
No, but I think with anyone, I think people still go watch Short Straw as a band locally, you know, who's not giant, but people want to go see them as a production.
But
people want to go see the live thing, go have a few drinks, whatever. It's part of the experience that you explained earlier, go out for dinner, everything.
But it's also a once off. So you're going to go to the theater, they will spend $20 million to bring Metallica, for instance, ballpark figures, to the stadium, because they know they're going to make triple that amount in one night, because the capacity can hold 50,000 people at 600 Rand a ticket. Not in the theater. You've got a theater of 400 seats where you have to pay for the theatre use, the hiring, the actors, the rehearsal space.
Yeah, musicians. There's a lot that goes into it.
There's that. You know, there's a large amount of things that you have to pay for. That means that, so let's just say you have to, this production is going to cost 1 million Rand to put on alone. You know, and then we're not talking about profit, we're not talking about anything else. If it's one night only or one weekend only in a theatre house that only seats 400 people at 200 to 300 Rand a ticket, you're not going to make your money back. You're going to be playing at a loss. That's why you have to let it go on for 9-10 weeks at a time.
Understand.
So then
because the original layout of the production with things like costumes, which are costly, stage props, maintenance,
salaries,
rehearsals, salaries, all of those things, you've spent money for what 2-3 months for some plays in rehearsal time before even getting to production time. You've spent money for 2 or 3 months before you've even started seeing any return for it.
Exactly.
I understand that's very difficult. But what I'm saying from the consumer standpoint, what's to stop the person close enough to the theatre from going to see the production even though they can see it online? You know, football matches. You can watch football live and in person because you're a football fan, but you could watch it on TV much cheaper, much easier, and in more detail with commentary. You're able to watch replays, pause, rewind, whatever, but people still go to watch the football live. And I think that I don't see how it would hurt the sales of a theatre production. I think that its extra revenue stream from elsewhere would outweigh the small losses in ticket sales.
I don't think so. I think because the theatre is not as supported as sport is. It's not as what's the right word? It's not placed on a pedestal like sport is, even though it's the same idea, the same expertise goes into sport.
Yeah,
focus of expertise as what it does in the theatre.
Of course, absolutely. You know? I think it's what we were saying earlier from the theatre industry is that it's not as commercially viable from popular culture.
No.
You know, it doesn't appeal to everyone like films do. You know, it's not the Avengers.
No,
which has
a long history of fandom.
Yes, from its original, like a comic, from a nostalgia standpoint for older people, and then younger people are just into superheroes.
And that's the thing. So something like, for instance, Cats has a long history of fandom. We put Cats on, it's going to make money. The movie, maybe not, but the actual the stage show and experience, we're going to go watch it live. Amazing. It does not have the same effect on TV. You cannot watch it on TV because you know you can watch a live recording of it.
Yes.
Cool. Amazing. But that's still not going to make you money.
So that's where I'm seeing, I think, for me, where I would look to grow the theatre industry is more live recordings of theatre productions.
I think it should be, instead of streaming it on Showmax or whatever, for 3 months, maybe it should be a once-off. It should be a TV special.
TV event.
You know what I mean? Maybe that way it would be best instead of it being a replay or reruns of or whatever, So there is a run of a certain production, it gets filmed, and then that filmed, gets edited, and then that live recording becomes a special event, a TV event, a Showmax event. You watched Woolworths, and now you get to see it on TV for a day.
Okay, Showmax, how much are you prepared to put into this? We need to cover all the costs of the theatre industry. Just to have a theatre channel.
Come on, Showmax. Come on. Support the arts, not just sport.
That's true. Yeah. So, look, I would love to see it grow. And I think we as South Africans we have a really good theatre industry.
It's growing. It really is growing, Marco. It's slow. And also, but the thing is, there are new productions. There are these new producers that are putting on amazing work that is completely challenging the norm. VR Theatrical are putting on crazy pieces of theatre that are doing beautifully. Here's to You is doing their second season now, the Simon and Garfunkel songbook. Who would have thought? But a lot of people are enjoying watching a band of actors, singers, playing instruments on stage, very sort of ones, and singing their favorite hits from Simon and Garfunkel. What a tick. Putting on interesting adaptations of A Christmas Carol or The Little Prince. I was in a play by VR Theatrical called The Mystery of Irma Vep, a two-hander between Jonathan Rocksmith and I. And, that is something that challenges the norm because people don't necessarily watch that. But it's, there are these production houses that are putting on interesting pieces of theatre, and they are growing in their numbers and in their viewership, in their audience, excuse me. It's just a little bit slow.
I understand. And hopefully it's not a short-term renaissance like we've seen in the past, and it's something that continues to grow exponentially.
And people see value in that, hopefully,
I think the more money that the theatre industry can make, the more productions we can always put on. Those executive producers, when they see return, when they've funded a production, when they see that return, it's easier for them to push out again.
And also quality. That's also true. I mean, Matilda is a blueprint production, and it was bought from the Royal Shakespeare Company. Everything was commissioned. However, it's a completely South African cast. And it had a couple of international cast members. And then, now we're touring internationally with international cast members as well. But the quality of the show is what made it sell out in South Africa as well. Because it was a real event. When you went to go and watch it, you are blown away by this 7-year-old girl who can speak all those lines, who can sing, who can dance, all these other kids that can do that. Miss Trunchbull, who is this huge-ass woman who, grabs a girl by the pigtails and literally hammer throws her over the audience. That sort of stuff. I'm not giving anything away because it's in the show. You will see it. That sort of stuff is what makes it amazing.
Incredible. Now, do you think that there was a point that, I mean, we were talking about The Lion King earlier. Was the success of The Lion King sort of a catalyst for these sort of production, that level of productions being produced here in South Africa?
I don't know. I'm sure it played a part. Look, The Lion King opened the Teatro, and it is a spectacular show. It really is. It was one of the first times we've seen these big Broadway hits in such a spectacular way on stage, with puppetry and things like that. And
I don't even know how many musicians were part of that production. It was many.
It's definitely was a catalyst in some way.
Okay, away from the theatre, television acting.
Yeah, what about it?
Let's bring people into how it really works.
What do you want to know?
Away from the glamour and the glitz and the final finished product, what goes into it?
A lot. It's difficult. Look, I mean, I'm not as well versed in film and TV as what other people are. I've done some stuff, but a lot of work goes into it, as much as it does in the theatre. It's there's rehearsal as well. There's script writing. There's deadline. It's hard work. I mean, I don't know where to start.
Okay, so we asked you your favorite musicals, and we didn't even get into that.
That's okay.
Favorite musicals available as films for people who don't watch musicals, don't go to the theatre or anything. What do we watch to get started?
The Rocky Horror Picture Show,
which is the original production of it.
Yeah. Chicago, good production of it. A musical, The Moulin Rouge, which is now on stage as well. Very good movie musical. The Greatest Showman, I think, was in a magnificent movie musical. I adored it. La La Land, I adored. Contrary to other people's opinions about it, I had a good time. My favorite musicals, so long. I do know that Hamilton is now being filmed live on stage, and you can watch it.
Oh, okay. But it's the stage production that you can watch.
Yeah. Yes, you can. There's so many. I feel like I've just blanked. I'll come back to it later.
Okay. And then your favorite musicals outright, just your 20.
I don't know if I've got 20 on me, but Spring Awakening. Absolutely love Spring Awakening. And
I haven't seen it.
I saw it on Broadway. Blew my mind. I was a choreographer in 2011. Amazing. Green Day's American Idiot. Adore that musical. Sweeney Todd, love. I want to play Ursula the Sea Witch in The Little Mermaid.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah.
There's a musical called Fun Home, which is divine, absolutely divine. I chunked in it. It was my first show as well that I saw on Broadway. Caroline Will Change, magnificent. I'd love to do that here. Producers. The Producers is on at the moment at the Peter Turin Theatre, at the Theatre on the Bay, and then it's coming up here soon, shortly after. Also, I hear magnificent things about it.
Is it also to Peter Turin here in Joburg?
Yes, I watched Kinky Boots. Oh my word, what a magnificent piece of theatre. You see, there's a few God putting on, like we said about VR Theatrical, pushing the boundaries, Fugard doing the same thing, putting on interesting works that you won't necessarily think would work. But then suddenly they're selling out and they're running for 7 months.
Wonderful.
Like Kinky Boots, what an amazing thing. That's a great show. Have you seen it?
I haven't.
The movie?
I haven't seen any of it.
Okay.
I haven't seen any of it.
Do yourself a favor.
Okay, I will.
Do yourself a favor. But I dig the rock musicals. Because they've got something to say. They do a big fat fuck you to everyone. And they discuss it in your face.
And what about the Wizard of Oz one? What's that one called?
Wicked.
Can't
stand it.
Is it awful?
No, it's just... And I know that I'm going to be taken over the coals for this, dragged through... I mean...
It's good. The more listeners who are going to get upset about this, the more I'm going to get in views.
You know why? Because, I mean, what a magnificent story. Music's great. Then you go and watch it, and you just literally... And I don't care because I paid 2,000 Rand for this ticket, which is why I actually reserve the right to say this, was a bunch of old-ass third covers and swings and tired ensemble members who go, oh, I'm just doing a matinee. I'm only going to give 30%. Excuse me. You have a house with 2,000 people sitting, adoring your production, and you're not giving it the 100% that you're supposed to, fuck you, dude.
I think that's what I loved about watching your production of Sweeney Todd that I went to with Jonathan Rocksmith, who was incredible.
Incredible.
He was incredible in it. The perfect actor for that part. And it was powerful. And you can see that the whole cast was full into it, full on.
That's what you have
and
to
do.
do.
It was just such a powerful performance.
You can't give a half-ass performance. People pay money to watch it.
And I think that's the difference, is that you will never experience that powerful performance while watching it in your bedroom at home.
No, you won't.
Jonathan Rocksmith's voice is not going to be picked up on a microphone the same way that it projects in a room.
I mean, there's a microphone, but you can feel the vibration.
But yes. And just incredible.
I don't know. That's why I hated Wicked. So many of my friends loved it. They were like, it's the best thing I've seen. I'm like, no, it's a load of shit, because I paid a lot of money for it and I didn't get what I thought I was going to get.
Non-musical dramatic theatre.
Oh, so many.
You didn't mention The Colour Purple for musicals.
Oh, yes. The Colour Purple was lovely. I did watch The Colour Purple on
Our
Broadway.
local production was incredible.
I also watched the local production, also incredible. And they're going in rehearsal down to do I could stand corrected, the third season of it. And then they're doing an Asian tour of it.
Wonderful.
Wonderful stuff.
Worth it, deserving, wonderful production.
What's lovely about that is that it is a fully fledged non-replica production.
So it was a authentic South African production.
Authentic South African production of that original
story,
yeah. So they got the books, and it was imagined by the creatives that put that piece on, which is great. It's magnificent. It's not.
It was really, really very good.
Absolutely. And there's The Colour Purple. Watch that. Jennifer Hudson is so talented, but you know
The
what?
film
Grated my tits.
Go. Let's hear it.
This Chiquitita, she stood with, so everyone at the end of The Colour Purple stood on stage in their little light with their feet together and thanked the audience for watching by doing a bow, a company bow. She sat with her feet apart in her hip chewing gum.
How disrespectful.
Sorry, I'm knocking on the table, but I'm so disrespectful. But it upsets me, because I'm like, I might not be an Oscar winner, but you need to respect the fact that I paid money to watch you.
How despicable.
It's disrespectful. I hate it. And I'm speaking about me specifically. No, but there's a house of people who have paid money to watch you and enjoy this production. The least you could do is thank them properly.
Okay, stop selling albums, lady. Start respecting people.
Exactly.
Okay. Back to dramatic theatre, because I interrupted it with The Colour Purple.
That's okay.
Non-musical dramatic theatre.
Non-musical dramatic theatre. Are you saying my tops?
Yeah. What must people go see? What can they see, first of all, as filmed, either filmed theatre or film versions of theatre productions?
I just think that what you should do is give yourself the opportunity to see one piece of theatre a year. Straight play at the Market Theatre or at Peter Turin's, because they're always putting something on. If you want to travel to Pretoria or vice versa, you can as well, because at the State Theatre, at the Brooklyn Theatre, Student Theatre, that's also very good around South Africa. Just take yourself to go and watch one piece of theatre. Play, whatever it is, surprise yourself. It might blow your mind, or it might be really shitty. But the point is, you're supported and you did something that is not watch rugby on a Saturday. In that end, do the same with a musical. Go and watch one musical a year, because either you save up and spend 1,000 Rand for that, really, something that you really want to see, or, don't. Save up, watch something, sit in the Gods where you pay $200 for the seat or whatever. $200 is what you're going to be paying for a meal.
Right.
Okay, don't eat the KFC this weekend.
Yeah.
Save that money and go and watch a live performance, because you will be changed as a human being. You will be uplifted as a human being. Experiencing live theatre changes the way you view things. There's a connection and electricity, whether it's a straight drama or a musical, that that the connection between audience and actor as a whole is just. It's really magnificent, and that's what makes it, watching a live game of soccer or whatever, so electrifying as well, because there is there's electricity, this game that's happening, and all these people are watching, and it's that connection that's so magnificent.
I think what a lot of people don't realize that the theatre can give you as an experience is we were discussing your father who's not a theatre fan, and he seemed to be overly critical and overanalyze certain sections of the film. But I'd bet of the production rather. But I'd bet you anything he still walks out of any theatre production that he goes to see and says, wow. So he'll be critical of elements in it, but he still says, wow. And this is something that I've experienced. Maybe I'm a fan of it. And it's something, I don't even go to the theatre a lot, and I'm a big fan of it. Sort of life gets in the way. But what I must say is that with the theatre, I'd say 99% of the time I walk out and you still say, wow, you get the same sort of sensation that you get from a really good movie. So there are tons of movies out there, and some, sort of can leave you, the average. Most movies that you go see, you come out of it and say, yeah, that was good. That was cool. I enjoyed that. But there's once in a while where you'll watch an incredible movie and you'll just be at the end of it say, wow. And I find the theatre gives me that.
Isn't it interesting that what you buy at the movie house with the popcorn and chips is $200 a ticket?
I don't think people are going to the movies themselves anymore anyway, really.
No.
Not that much. The cinema industry is struggling in South Africa.
But to keep that in mind, there's $280. You could do the same at the theatre.
Don't go watch the Avengers, please.
Just
please don't waste your time. It's first of all, it's something built to just take your money in the first place. The whole of the Avengers series is not someone's art. It's not someone trying. None of those actors give a shit about that role. Really, none of them do. The guy who's directing it is there for the payday and to get his name bigger and his brand bigger. The whole thing has just been developed to make the most money. I mean, there's scenes cut out of the Avengers movies because, okay, listen, I don't know if they're going to like that too much in China. It's going to hurt our pocket. The thing. I mean, it's not like someone producing art. And what sickens me to the stomach, I don't know if you've watched the Joker film.
I have.
I haven't. This new Joker film. The director, the creators of this new Joker film went to the movie houses initially a few years ago saying, we want to remake sort of Taxi Driver, the 80s film, Taxi Driver, of this person's slow descent into psychosis. It's a descent into chaos of the mind. They wanted to make this, and they sort of shopped it around, and no one really wanted to make this film until they put a DC comic book person on the save. So I'm sure it's a great film. I haven't seen it. I've heard a lot of really good things about it. But it was only purchased by the same movie was only purchased because of the character that was in it.
I don't know much about that, but I can.
This is what I've heard.
But I can say that it's magnificent.
Yeah, I'm sure. Look, like I say, I'm sure it's a magnificent film. But what upsets me is that these people wanted to make this magnificent film. They got a great actor behind it. They produced a wonderful film, and they wrote a great story. But they originally wanted to make
Taxi Driver.
A Taxi Driver. So it was. I mean, that was the basis of it.
It was two birds with one stone.
It's the story that they wanted to tell. But the only way they could tell that story is if they put a comic book character behind it.
I can honestly say that I watched Joker, but I didn't watch Joker because I'm a fan of DC Comics, or Marvel or whatever. I mean, I watch those things because I'm just a fan of frivolous action. Firstly,
right?
Like, I can just sit back. I don't have to worry about anything. I can just watch crappy science fiction, and within reason. But what I loved about the Joker was it felt like it was a masterclass in acting. And that's what enthralled me. And
I think...
And that's why
I don't want to criticize the film itself, but it's upsetting for me to hear that story, is that no one wants to get behind creating real shows. No one wants to get behind creating someone's real art. Like the big production houses don't want to let people make great films anymore because great films don't make money. And The Joker is a great film that made money, but only because of this Joker element.
Interesting.
And I don't know if you've watched Birdman.
I have.
I think that outlines it really nicely. Is this man is trying to be taken seriously as an artist from an artist standpoint, but he's not taken seriously as an artist because he's part of this franchise of Birdman, this superhero movie franchise. And he wants to do something that's real and artistic, and the sort of art community is so dismissive of him because he's part of that franchise. And they're sort of in right to do so in a way. and his ultimate goal is to create this real dramatic, this real arts thing. And it's a wonderful movie, and I think it outlines the problem with the film industry.
I think it's very interesting because, I mean, even within the, musical theatre and dramatic actors, a lot of, I speak from experience, where you hear that those who are straight actors always believe that a musical theatre performer is not an actor and you've sold yourself to commercialism. And I don't think that that's the case. I think it's got to do with your passion. I mean, I love acting so much that whether it's in a drama or in a musical, it's going to be acting.
So all I'm getting at is that not the actors themselves.
No, but,
at the end of the day,
yeah.
So actors, directors, everyone, you have to do what you have to do to get paid. Exactly. It's just really disappointing that the public is so susceptible to the lowest common denominator that they're just subscribing to what they sort of told to subscribe to. And there's no conflict in our art because of this. So, and I think the Joker is actually a really good example of how artists need to get their art out somehow. So the Joker's this massive smash hit, but it's also a great artistic film. So luckily that artist has been able to get their art out now. But just the story overall, it's almost tragic to hear that story because how much good art is out there not being made, not being pushed, not being created because of commercialism. And I can't even blame the producers and the movie houses and stuff like that. You have to blame the community, the film watching community.
Yes.
So I don't know what your views are on that.
I don't know if I'm well versed enough to discuss it. Sheesh.
I think it's just frustrating.
I've got lots of friends who are film and TV actors, directors, producers who would probably have a lot to say about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know. I'm just going to sound stupid.
So I think it's something that's translated to the theatre industry as well, where we have all of these safe productions, whereas they may be very good. But it's a safe bet, and I'd rather that there's more opportunity out there for the challenging productions, just because I don't want the safe bets to be stop being produced, but I want more of the challenging productions to come out, and I sort of want to challenge community and society to be willing to be challenged, stop just subscribing to whatever you're sort of told to subscribe to.
Like Marvel Comics, for instance.
That's exactly it.
Yeah. I think it will happen and it is happening. It's just really slow. It's really slow. I mean, if you look at Broadway, there was a slump, which I feel like we're experiencing sort of now. And then suddenly there was this new era, Stephen Sondheim, who wrote Sweeney Todd, sort of this new era of directing and storytelling and whatever that blossomed and turned Broadway, around the corner, and you started traveling in a different way. So, and I think that's might be where we're at the moment in South African theatre, is that we're creating things. We are. Jonathan Rocksmith and I wrote Great Balls of Fire together, completely new tale about Jerry Lee Lewis, put it on stage, and it was really successful, and we're very happy about that. But it was also step one in that breath is that there's a new work. Completely new. We're not just writing something about Elvis. He was part of it, but but there's suddenly a new work. Jay VR Theatrical doing interesting things like Here's to You, creating something might not necessarily be, and I say this with respect, it might not be art for art's sake, but it is artistic in that they are actors who are playing instruments on stage, and they are there's this movie of choreographic movement as they tell and play, and you listen to your favorite Simon and Garfunkel hits. There's that. There's Kinky Boots or The Color Purple. So there is a group. We're in a place now where we are creating work from a non-replica work, new work all the time. It's just picking up. It's picking up, but it's just a bit slow. And I think it will eventually. I think it will eventually turn into. This will blossom into this magnificent South African surge of theatrical identity.
I would love to see that happen. Okay, so now we've been going on about theatre and film and stuff for really, really long. Another
For
thing
those
I
of you
want
who are
to...
bored, I'm sorry.
Yeah, stop listening. It's fine. It's a podcast.
Fast forward.
If you're not enjoying it, please don't listen. Like really, I'm being honest, just because I want you to enjoy it. So
Yes.
I'm not desperate for viewers and listeners. I don't hold this desperation because I think it's inauthentic. If you're forced to watch something, please don't. So if it is boring,
Skip.
but skip to this point because now we're changing over. You've had an incredible weight loss journey,
I have.
and your health has come a long way just in terms of your healthy living. Let's get into that a little bit.
Oh, wait, okay.
Where to start? Okay, let's start with just the sort of typical facts. When did you start? How many years has it taken you to get to this point? Things
A
like
long time. So I've always been a bit troubled, but then I was blinded by the fact that I was 123 kilograms and I was, had this huge, I was on the verge of death because my cholesterol was through the roof and I was blinded. I was completely unbeknownst. Like I did not know. To me, I just looked the same. To my friends, I was always just me. But there was a point where I woke up one morning and I had a burger and chips in my bed that I did not remember eating. And a chocolate, a Cadbury's bubbly, which is delicious. I just haven't tasted it in 10 months. And so there was that in my bed, and then I went on a weekend away with my friends, and that weekend away was a wonderful weekend for me because it was a moment that I had an epiphany, and I was like, I had to change. I needed to do something about it because suddenly I realized something was wrong. That weekend, I decided, I was like, okay, cool, let me do something about this. I saw a picture of myself. My mom also messaged me, and she said, geez, Weslee, you look so fat. And I know that that doesn't sound very supportive but it was in a certain way. It was my mom, being really just hard and just giving me the hard truth. And my friends then going, hey, dude, you actually, what's up, gal? What's up? Because I was literally just eating myself into, I was not happy. The point is I was not happy. And then...
So the people close to you were sort of challenging you away from something they saw that was unhealthy, was unhealthy activities on your behalf.
Completely that. And so then I was like, okay, cool. What I need to do is I need to learn how to eat. Because I didn't know how. I thought I was doing the right thing by eating avo and this and that on toast. But it's not going to help when you're eating 6 slices of toast with 4 avos on, as a very, very big, broad example.
Yeah, I think the big thing that people don't know, and the information that's not specifically out there, is that weight loss is about calories. It's not about the types of foods you're eating.
No.
It's about calories. Weight loss in itself specifically is calories. If you're calorie deficient, you're going to lose weight. So if all your calories are coming from Coca-Cola, you're still going to lose weight.
You're
if you have fewer
skinny fat.
Yeah, you're not going to be healthy. So health and weight loss are sort of two different categories. They do work side by side when you're overweight. Obviously, losing weight is going to make you more healthy, but eating healthy foods, but in massive portions and high calories, isn't going to help you lose weight.
No, it isn't. And
chicken and rice is lower in calories than a burger and a Coke.
Yes, but also...
at the same volume. So that's where the healthy eating sort of comes.
Yes. And it's completely that. And then I got hold of a woman randomly on Facebook. I was researching nutritionists. And I made a booking with Lila Bruck. I'm going to punt her because this chick has changed my life.
Shout out Lila. Where's she located? Joburg?
She's in Joburg at the Bluebird Medical Center.
Shout
which is
out
pretty
Lila.
close, yeah. And I phoned her, made an appointment. So that was step one. And I was on the verge of canceling that appointment because I was very scared of being faced with the truth. But while I was doing that, I also made an appointment to see a psychologist because I was like, I need to potentially find out where the root is of this problem that I have with eating. Because I have a problem. I have a bad relationship with food. Very bad relationship with food.
Would you describe it similar to addiction?
Yes, completely similar.
So you had a food addiction to unhealthy foods, and the sensation that you get when consuming unhealthy foods.
Yes.
It certainly does give us a sort of little dopamine push, and you fall into this trap of using that to feel better.
Yes, completely that. And I started seeing her, Dr. Dorothy. I was going to punt her because this chick also changed my life. Shout out, she's in Kensington. Good old Kens.
Hey, that's my stomping ground.
The stomping ground.
Yeah.
And I started this journey where I really sort of had to face a lot of demons that I thought I had dealt with growing up, but I inevitably didn't. And when that happened, suddenly, Lila put me on this eating plan, and that's what it was. This eating plan was exactly to teach me how to eat, when to eat, and also to make it interesting. So she didn't just send me, okay, these are the things you can and can't eat. It was, for lunch, this is how much you're allowed to eat. These are the things you can choose from. How you do that is up to you. And sorry, that's my friend Sean.
No problem.
Who is an actor on Getrouwd met Rugby. How you do that is up to you, and how you do that is up to you. So that was for lunch, snacks. Breakfast, lunch, supper, snacks in between, cutting out carbs from this time. And if you're going to eat carbs, eat these types of carbs. If you're going to eat meat, eat these types of meats. If you're going to eat vegetables, eat all of the vegetables except sweet potato in excessive amounts. You know what I mean? Like that sort of stuff to just help you. And so it's that, get rid of the refined sugars and things like that. Get rid of milk in your coffee if you can. I still treat myself to a flat white with some milk in it because I find almond milk quite repulsive. But it's that sort of way. But I was very strict for 6 months, where I focused on this thing, like hell or high water, I'm losing weight. And then, that sort of started adjusting over the last 2 months, where I've sort of given myself a little bit more leeway with enjoying the finer things. And what I mean by that is the experiences I have with my friends. So if I go out with my friends and we're all having burgers and chips, I'm going to have a burger and chips because I know that it's not something I eat every day.
And it's part of the experience instead of a daily sort of ritual.
I'm sitting here with you. I'm going to have a burger and chips with you because we're having this moment with each other. If I'm really being strict with myself and I go, okay, cool, I'm going to sit and have lunch with you, Marco, but you're going to have a burger and chips, for instance, and then I'm going to just have the grilled fish, please, and vegetables.
Wonderful.
Which I love.
So I think the one thing I'd mention there, and one of the points that I think is very important for people who are looking to improve their health and their lifestyle, is that it has to work for you. I think if you go into a very strict diet that you can't possibly commit to because you're so far away from that, I think that's not a good diet for you. So rather taper it down because you're not going to stay committed to it. So I think this is the first important point that I would make for this, is you have to choose something from a diet standpoint that you're going to be able to do.
Yes.
I don't think that you shouldn't push yourself at all, because discipline is a massive part of it. So push. But if it's going to be impossible for you, then you're wasting your time. So I'd rather someone start being slightly healthier rather than impossibly healthy, because at least you're going to stick to it.
A lot of people think that stopping cold turkey is the key to certain things. And I think that's a personality type. So when I stopped smoking, that was for me cold turkey. I needed to do it and then never touch it again. I think it's one of those things that you have to do. Yeah,
because of how the addiction works.
Exactly. But food is you can't stop food. So, however, you're right. You have to find something that works for you. I also think that what helped me is the marriage of nutrition and seeing a psychologist
at the
same time, where I was now sort of fishing and then suddenly realizing that I was eating or doing certain things because of the way I felt. So then when I started sifting the way I felt in real life and going, okay, this is not going to make me a better person, or this is not going to change who I am, or
solve that problem.
So I don't need to eat. I used to want to eat, and we found out, I'll be very personal about it, is that the reason why I ate so much and the reason why I was addicted to this terrible lifestyle was because I enjoyed inflicting pain, psychological and physical pain on myself. So I do it to punish myself because of many things. That stuff has subsequently come, goodbye to that. But finding things that work for you. So you're holding on
to self-hatred of a sort.
Yes.
So there were things that you hated about yourself from either childhood or even into your adulthood that you were punishing yourself.
Or things that I had done that I subconsciously was punishing myself by eating.
Because you couldn't forgive yourself for those actions because you weren't challenging it.
Yes. And head on. And then, but I also wanted to say is that, for me, the thing that changed was I said, for me, it wasn't about diet. I'm not following a diet because there's a weird negative connotation to the word diet. It means that you are inflicting really horrible pain on yourself. So you're punishing yourself. Exactly. So I don't call it a diet.
And then diet has also got this connotation of short term. It's got a thing, whereas lifestyle is the big shift, is that something that's permanent.
Yes.
Lifestyle is something permanent, whereas diet is something temporary for you to get to a certain goal or an achievement, whereas lifestyle is permanent.
Exactly. So it was about changing my lifestyle. So now, have I done
Sorry
that?
to interrupt. So when did this all start for you?
In May last year. So it's been what's it?
So it's
Almost-
less than a year.
It's less than a year,
10
and
months.
I've lost 22 kilograms.
22 kilograms in 10, 11 months.
Yeah, that's
quite a lot.
It's a child.
So yeah, for you're quite a large frame person. You're quite tall. So when you said 130 kilos earlier, was it 130 or 123?
It was 123.
123.
Yeah.
So 123 kilos for people, it's an astronomical number for most people, but you're quite tall. So 123.
On me, it didn't look too big.
So it didn't look as big as 123 on someone else. However, it was big. It was big for you. So you're now just over 100 kilos?
Yeah, I actually weighed myself today. I went in to see Lila today.
Wonderful, Lala.
And I weighed in today at 101.7.
Well done.
Thank you very
Incredible
much.
achievement.
And I'm so
And
close.
obviously it's something still ongoing. Do you have a goal weight that you're looking to achieve? Is there some sort of healthy goal? Or
There is a healthy goal according to my body composition, and I'm working towards that, and I am literally 3.5 kilos away from it.
Incredible.
It is incredible, but I'm going to go a little bit further than that because I don't want to just stop at 98. I want to get to 95.
You got to get jacked, Weslee. You got to get jacked. Huh?
Also, the difference is, and I think it was a long time coming as well because I had started CrossFit and I wasn't losing
Yes.
weight. So I'm like, why am I not losing weight if I'm
Because
working out so
nutrition
hard?
is such a big part of it.
They are so part of it, you know. I don't want to sit here and say that I am the biggest nutrition guru. That's a lie.
No. Neither of us are.
What's working for me is what I'm doing, you know.
So I think what people don't understand is that the working out is helping you burn calories. So if you're
muscle.
running on a treadmill, for example, you're gonna lose weight because you're burning calories. However, your body then craves the replenishment of those calories, so you tend to eat more. So your nutrition is such a massive part specifically for weight loss. And then again for weight gain for people like me who, unfortunately, that's fallen by the wayside now since I've been busy and worked and stressed. I struggle to put on weight. So my difficulty is eating enough calories to gain the weight while doing
And the right
weightlifting
calories.
and the right types of calories.
Yeah.
For me, it's a little bit different. So I found a few years ago when I was really at the gym a lot with weightlifting, I could have any type of calories. Eating healthy obviously did help. It was a leaner muscle growth when I was eating better, cleaner foods, certain types of good fats, and sugar is something that I'm luckily not so big on.
Same.
So my sugar craving is bread.
Same.
Man, bread is too
After a CrossFit
good.
workout, all I want to do is eat a loaf of it. White bread with butter, but I don't. But I mean,
Pizza.
I miss it a lot, but it's okay.
You don't have pizza at all?
I do have pizza, but
But you treat yourself in small amounts.
small
and
amount.
stuff.
I would
I eat a
share
lot of
pizza
pizza.
with you, and I would only eat 2 slices, and then I would say, thank you, enough now.
There's a video on my friend's Instagram, Carl van der Skeef, where we did a podcast, and straight from the podcast, I went to go get my Friday night pizza. And I get the very extra large, big boxes, which is like a family-sized pizza for like 4. And me and Lee and I just knock it out in a night. You know, just between the two of us. But
Amazing.
again, our goals are different. And we tend to eat quite healthy. So Lee has gut issues, you know, so her gut flora now, especially as years go by, her gut flora is sensitive to a lot of things. So when our eating is very bad and very unhealthy and not clean, she's very uncomfortable. So for me, I sort of don't have very bad effects to my bad diet. I see it in my skin a little bit and like sort of normal stuff that everyone experiences. But I must say that energy levels is one of the huge things. Energy level, when I'm eating badly, the quality of my sleep, things like that. So with your journey, less than a year in, your changes have been mostly nutritional in your lifestyle.
Yes.
Because you had the CrossFit and heavy working out is something that do you feel you have a little bit of a positive addiction to that?
Yes, I do have a bit of a positive addiction to that, and I also feel like when I don't go, I hate myself even more. No, that's really negative. What I mean is, I do beat myself up a bit. I'm like, I should have gone to CrossFit, but it's not because of that. It's because I actually really, really enjoy it.
Yeah.
It's also easier, and look, CrossFit, for instance, never gets easier. You just get better at it, and you get stronger. And yeah, no, I do have a bit of a love.
You're
for
crazy
working out.
strong, by the way. For people who don't, who are listening to this and they're talking about this guy who had to lose 22 kilos because he felt fat, and he goes to CrossFit. It almost you're crazy strong.
Thank you. I am. Yesterday we did sled pushes. I just want to brag a bit.
Yeah, brag.
And
go ahead.
we did sled pushes, and we had to go up to our maximum weight that we could push, and I went up to 227 kilos. So I'm like,
Unreal.
geez, and I felt like I could go further, but I was like, no, not today. I have a show to do next week. I don't want to snap a hamstring, God forbid.
So one of the hardest things for people who are losing weight and are doing weight-based exercises is that you tend to lose a lot of your ability to lift when you're losing weight.
Yes.
So weightlifting is often relative to your body weight. So what a lot of people don't talk about is that, for example, the first thing that Jim Oakes say, how much do you bench? Now, if I bench 80 kilos and you bench 100 kilos, my 80 kilos is more impressive than your 100 kilos because it's your body weight, in a sense where if at me it's 72 kilos, 80 kilos is 8 kilograms, is 10% over my body weight. So this is something that people don't really discuss too much, and where it is an achievement. Did you find you lost strength with your 22 kilos lost?
Yes.
Or just not necessarily strength, but your ability to push a certain weight?
Yes, but not in my legs, in my arms.
In your arms.
However, now that I've lost 22 kilos, I can do a pull-up.
Right,
Whereas
of course.
when I didn't, when I was bigger, I struggled to do a pull-up because I was pulling 122 kilos up with my arms. It was. But now that I'm 100, I'm like, wow, I can actually do a pull-up. Not as many. I can do 3 or 4, and I go, okay, cool. That's my 3 or 4 for this specific section of the workout. But I do in my arms. But the thing is, it's also got to do with. My legs have always been strong. I have got a very strong legs, so my deadlifts and stuff have always been heavy.
You're a good rugby boy.
Oh, yeah,
Weslee. You got a good rugby frame.
Should join the Jersey Cats, hey? Because I could be in the scrum because I can push 227, babes. Maybe get myself a man.
So, like I said, that's something that people might not pick up from the conversation. You are crazy strong.
Thank you.
So, further into this journey of yours, so you're so close to your goal weight. How has your lifestyle changed from the mental side of things as well? Like, how are you feeling? How has it changed for you? How's this adaptation thing? And how were you able to keep up the nutrition in China?
I cooked for myself in China.
Which is actually another thing that, going back to China, something that a lot of people won't know there necessarily. It's quite expensive to cook for yourself relative to eating out. Like sort of a Chinese takeaway in China is so cheap.
But it's
so
also
cheap.
Deep fried, lots of carb, very little vegetable, very little meat.
And listen to me, people. We're talking about how small Chinese people are. This is something we've discussed. They probably weigh, 60 kilos, 58 kilos, like an average car. Out-eat me. I out-eat everyone in South Africa, people much bigger than me. Chinese people out-eat me all the time.
They eat a lot. And so in China, because I was there for such a long time, I bought myself an air fryer and a little rice cooker. So I just cooked for myself steamed vegetables and whatever. The difficulty is, when a lot of people give up on their so-called diets or their so-called nutritional plans and whatever, it's because they don't add variety. And you get bored. You get bored with what you're eating. That's why you think you're hungry, but you're not actually hungry. You're just not adding variety. And what I mean by that is the way you prepare your meal. It could be the same chicken veg, but it doesn't always have to be a piece of chicken and a little bit of veg on a plate. Maybe you cut that chicken up and you make it a young stir fry. Or if you're going to have oats or muesli, instead of just doing, oats and some yogurt, instead of just doing oats, yogurt and a banana, why don't you add some cinnamon in there? Why don't you serve it in a martini glass? That sort
just
of stuff.
Just to bring some excitement.
It brings excitement to the way you're eating your meals.
I think we need to be excited about food, and it mustn't
Let
be
food be your medicine.
I don't think that burgers and chips needs to be where we get our excitement. We can get excited about healthier food.
Absolutely. And so in China, I just did that a lot of cooking for myself. The breakfast at the hotels were obviously given to us for part of the package. So
was it buffet breakfast so you could be selective?
Yes. So I would have a boiled egg and some brown toast.
And stay away from those custard buns.
Yes.
That are so...
But then what I did,
What is it? A condensed milk? There's like a.
they do condensed milk.
It's like a Chinese version of a donut almost.
Yeah.
It's like a small bread roll. It looks like a McDonald's bun almost without sesame seeds. That's sort of the size of it, and it's a deep fried condensed milk dough,
Yes.
and it's super popular there.
Yes.
And I think
also-
it's like death in a
As
in
you
a
bite into it, you feel your arteries clogging. it's
It's sickly sweet. It is quite delicious, I suppose,
From a
in
pastry
sense-
point of view.
From a just because it's nice to have anything that's a dough deep fried is yummy.
it is.
But it's almost sickly sweet and something that.
Something that I did, and it's difficult. My mental health is why I say my mental health is because it's been a journey that's sort of gone parallel with my nutritional health. It's far better than what it was. I love myself still. I've always loved myself. I've always been lush, but I felt like that was a front. But now it's something completely different. I love myself enough to make good decisions about the things that I put into my body, because I recognized what I was doing wrong and why I was doing that, and that is not what I want to do. That is not how I want to treat myself. You need to love yourself enough to treat yourself properly. Do you know what I mean? And so I make good decisions. I don't eat the salad because I have to. I eat the salad because I want to, because I love myself enough to know that I'm treating myself by eating delicious, healthy foods that aren't deep fried, that aren't packed with oil, that aren't carb heavy, that aren't, fatty lamb. Even the lamb is delicious. It's not lamb chops. It's other things. It's leaner meats. And you can eat healthily and still enjoy it. It isn't a burden. You don't have to burden yourself with, I have to eat healthy. No, you eat healthy because you want to live longer, because you don't want high cholesterol, because you've got a family to support. It's so many other things, that constitute the reason why you have to eat properly. Because burgers and chips, as much as you love them, they're not necessarily giving you the nutritional value that a piece of grilled fish and vegetables is going to do.
I think a good place to start is cut out sodas, like soft drinks and stuff is a killer.
Tick.
The one thing is that we feel our calories. When you have a big meal, you feel full and you've had a lot of calories and you're like, I feel full, and you're very well aware that you've consumed a lot of calories. The thing about drinking a Coke, and not to hammer at them specifically, just the thing about drinking any sort of sugary soda drink is that you're having loads of calories and you don't feel it or experience those calories at all. So I think that's probably the first point that most people say is like soft drinks cut out. Even Coke Zero and sugar-free stuff, they're still high in calories. Zero sugar is still a good option. I'm not saying rather have normal Coke than Coke Zero. Sugar is associated to a lot of types of cancer, and then obviously diabetics and things like that. So sugar is the devil. So Coke Zero,
sugars,
So Coke Zero is still better than your normal Coke, but it's still high in calories. It's not going to help you lose weight. Coke Zero is not going to help you lose weight, really.
Interestingly enough, if I may interrupt you, is that, because the thing is, if I want a soda, I drink Sprite Zero.
Yeah.
Because it's not full of colorants and things like that. And also, weirdly enough, is if you're drinking a Sprite Zero with your meal, it's going to make your body think you're fuller.
Really? Do you find that?
Sometimes, depending on what you eat. Also, because I have something called, in my diet, is something called free veg, except sweet potato, because it's a carb, is that I can eat as much vegetables as I like any time of the day.
So it's difficult.
That's what keeps you full.
It's difficult to get calories from a lot of vegetables, to get a lot of calories from them.
I think there's 1 calorie in Sprite Zero.
Oh, right. Okay.
Weird.
So it's
Okay.
pretty light on calories.
Very
So
light.
that seems like a good diet drink.
Yeah.
And with vegetables, what happens is you absorb a lot of nutrition, a lot of fiber with those calories, and it's fairly low in calories.
Yes, and also how you prepare
Other
it.
than potatoes, sweet potato, avocado is one that seems very healthy and like low, like it's a diety sort of food.
A lot
but
of
it's
people
very
don't know
high
that.
in calories.
It's high in fats, yeah. Like good
But
fats.
it's very
like,
good fats, like fish. So that's where this ketogenic diet comes into play, where you can have a fat-based diet, but you have to cut away all your carbohydrates so that you go into ketosis. So you're getting enough calories from all the fats so that you have brain energy and just the ability to do things. But your body goes into ketosis because it's not consuming the carbohydrates. So it feels like it's low on calories. So it goes into a fasting state, but you actually have enough calories to operate. So I think this is the thing, is that dietitians and nutritionists and things are a great place to start, because they're able to analyze you individually from the science standpoint. But just cut out sugar. Don't have sugar in your coffee. Don't have sugary sodas and things like that. And then carry on eating how you're eating. But it's a good place to start.
Good place to start. It's also, can I say, one thing that also changed my mind. I mean, I drink a lot of coffee. At that stage, I was drinking 6 or 7 cappuccinos a day. A lot of people are going to scream at me. It's okay, whatever. Also with 2 sugars. Then suddenly I realized that that's 12 to 14 teaspoons of sugar a day. That is the amount of sugar that goes into a chocolate cake. And
you don't feel like you're having something sugary because coffee's a bit bitter and the sugar is just sort of countering it, but you're still consuming those refined sugars.
Exactly. And that says, oh my God, I'm consuming a cake worth of coffee, a cake worth of sugar a day. That changed. I don't really have any sugars now. I love the taste of bitter coffee. That's how it must be drank.
And you're not having it with fiber. So you get a lot of sugar from an apple.
Yes.
But if you eat an apple, you have a lot of fiber with that sugar. So it sort of counteracts the effects. That's why eating an apple is healthier than eating a lunchbox.
That's where you get your sugars from. Your natural sugars are from your fruit, which you eat hopefully 3 fruits a day.
Yeah. So I think that's as deep and detailed as I can get into nutrition with my knowledge and lack of qualification.
If a little bit of advice from someone who knows nothing as well is, don't be scared to ask for help. Don't be so embarrassed that you don't know what you're doing. Rather be proactive and find the hell out what it is you need to do in order to make it happen.
And luckily, there's a lot of information out there now. There's so much information on the internet, really good nutritional podcasts. Go listen to Dr. Rhonda Patrick for Found My Fitness. She's excellent. She's a nutritional scientist. You're going to get so much information out of places like her for free.
For free.
As well. So
why not do that?
Wonderful. Talking about your mental health and this front that you put on, and not to go too personal, stop me at any time when you're uncomfortable. We met, and you said 18 years ago earlier, and you're absolutely right, 2002. We sat next to each other in our first class at the National School of the Arts. Our first class, we sat next to each other. I think we were both a bit terrified. We both went there grade 9.
Yes.
So grade 8 was a year that a lot of kids already had made their friends, etc., in the new school, and we were sort of the new kids at school there, and we sort of sat next to each other in our first history class. I remember this quite well.
Oh my God.
And you were Afrikaans rugby boy. You were a little bit.
Well, yes, because I came from Hoërskool Becker.
And you came and sat next to me, and we were both the new boys, and I sat next to Weslee, and he was like, how's it?
Did I really do that?
Not in an impolite way.
Okay.
It was how's it? And you were a different person that day to who you were at the end of that year. Yeah. And that school let you free up and open up quite a lot.
Yeah.
You were a lot more reserved sort of person. You weren't, I didn't get the sense that you felt free and open to be who you were at that point. And by the end of that year, you had changed completely. I mean, for people who don't know, Weslee was Hoof Macy at our school, at the National School of the Arts, by the time we ended it. And when you sat down next to me, I don't think that I would have picked up that you were gay.
Okay.
In that first day, necessarily. And I think that you became so expressive by the end of that time that I don't know if it was the school or other elements from your life that allowed you to become more free and open, or if it was just a timing thing.
I don't know. I mean, I must admit that I don't remember it at all. What I do know is that in Hoërskool Becker, I had to reserve and change a lot of I was bullied heavily there because I am quite eccentric. And I realized that, and I didn't want the same thing to happen. Even though I was going to art school, I didn't know what to expect. So I felt like I needed to sort of, keep this reserved person sort of like on the front end of who I was or who I am, because I didn't want to deal with the bullying. And
you were sort of trained into that sort of behavior.
At Hoërskool Becker, completely, because you're in an all-boys hostel where physical altercations happen all the time. And I'm not someone who likes to sort of get into a fisticuff. I think it's barbaric, but you're barbaric. Use your brain and talk it out. You don't fisticuff to sort anything out.
I'm going to argue with that a little bit, where I think that boys at a certain age need to sort of a little bit of aggression and stuff and get it out to an extent. But obviously to solve every problem with violence is absolutely ludicrous, and this is something that happens daily in a boys' hostel.
It does, and I was involved in so many little fights and whatever, and when you're fighting with people physically, it's cuck, man.
It's not a good feeling.
No,
I don't think you ever come out of a fight, even if you win a fight, unless you have mental health issues of yourself and whatever, and that's how you feel better about yourself because you're depressed. You inflicting pain upon someone else makes you feel better about yourself in a way. Other than that, I don't think anyone feels good after a fight.
No, not at all. Not at all. And also, I don't know, so I had to not be myself, to
protect yourself from violent altercations.
Yeah.
So you didn't feel comfortable with being yourself at that stage.
No, and then go to art school and, meeting Marco, who is, at that stage, I didn't know who you were. I didn't know who everyone was. I didn't know where to place people. You know what I mean? So you sort of are reserved so that you can read the room.
I had never had a conversation with an openly gay person before going to that school. Actually sat down and had a normal conversation. I went to a Catholic school in Johannesburg South from a Portuguese community of Catholics, religious people. I went to Catholic church. I played drums in the church. I came from a community where homosexuality wasn't not only accepted, it wasn't common. And for people who were homosexuals in that situation, I don't think that they felt comfortable to be openly homosexual in that area. So when I went to the National School of Arts, it was something that I wasn't used to. But as an open and not really judgmental person, I was more open to it. However, because I came from that environment, I wasn't completely open to it.
Of course.
There was this idea that it was wrong. I was trained to think that homosexuality was a sin. That these people weren't like you and me. There's a lot of gay wad jokes going on. It's called, hey, faggot. This sort of masculine punch on the arm sort of thing. And not that I'm completely against that either. It's just about don't be offensive, be kind. So it's about this mentality, like if you bump your mate on the arm and have a go at him, great, that's wonderful, that's a fun thing.
Yeah.
But when you're being offensive, it's from a place of not understanding. And I think that I can feel ashamed about that, and rightfully so, having been so close-minded to it. And I think that's the stage in my life where I started to turn, is being exposed to more people like you, especially once you became more free and open to be who you are and express yourself as you are. I think that you're like, I'm friends with these people. These are great people. I like them. They're compassionate. They're talented. They're intelligent. They're just like anyone else. And I wouldn't even say just like anyone else, because I think that if you look, you sort of, once openly gay people are openly gay, there's a lot of freedom that comes with that. And I think that a big problem with the current generation, and everyone moaning about the current generation that happened when we were younger, is that there's not enough adversity that they face in their daily life to go and achieve something. I think adversity is something that you have to face. And I think that the gay community, the openly gay community, are people who have faced adversity, overcome it, and you're part of
continue to do so.
And continue to do so. And having to continuously face adversity gives you a certain strength, a certain drive, a certain ambition to go and achieve things. Yeah. And I think that that's why the gay community is such a massive achiever in terms of career life, personal life, etc. And so, yeah, that's why I won't even say just like anyone else, because you face things differently to how other people face them. And it brings you out as a certain different type of person. So you're not like everybody else. But however, you're not less admirable because you're not like anyone else. In a way, you're more admirable in certain ways. And I think that this judgment is from a place of ignorance. I think that a lot of homophobes don't have discussions or relationships with homosexual people. And I think that's where your mindset will change.
Absolutely. And I think the NSA, what it did was, taking it way back to there, is that I felt there was
18 years ago.
There was a certain level of freedom that I could, they opened that, they laid down and they say, hey, dude, we don't give a shit who you are. Explore it. And I think that's why it allowed me specifically to sort of just explore who I am to the extremes. You know what I mean? And
like a teenager should. You have to be able to explore yourself as a teenager. So I think it was a healthy environment in that sense, where there's this freedom where you sort of almost more free of judgment. I don't think anyone's free of judgment completely. Especially as teenagers. But there was this sense of you were more free of judgment. And
you always seemed, or to me, always seemed quite accepting. Even from when I first met you, you never seemed abrasive or aggressive, or you know what I mean? Like,
I can honestly say that from your internal judgments, there's still an element of that.
Of course.
So I think I very quickly became accepting of you and other people. But I must say, when I first arrived, there's...
You're taken
Remember
aback.
Mika?
Yes. And he was particularly gay.
He was incredibly flamboyant.
Yes, I know.
And I come from like a conservative army father. And a Catholic, and I went to that school, and my parents' eyes were giant. Just the noise level of a first day of school at the National School of Arts is incredible.
Yeah.
And then you see a girl walk past you, like, oh, okay, there's a girl in a skirt with a basket and like
flowers,
ribbons in her hair, but with a massive stubbly shadow. And it's like, oh, hold on, I've not seen this before ever in my life. What's going on? So you're taken aback because obviously it's something you've not experienced, much like Chinese people coming to take selfies with white people because they've just never seen white people before. But it was an incredible place for me to become accepting.
Of course.
And that doesn't mean that I didn't continue to make mistakes and continue to judge certain people and continue to treat people poorly, whether it's women, homosexuals, or whatever. It doesn't mean that I didn't continue to make mistakes. But from that point, I think it was a good point for me for acceptance.
Yes, but also you need to be open to it. If you're not open to it, you're never going to learn.
Of course, and I think it's so easy to become open to it when you are in a situation where you can socialize with people and you do learn that, oh, this is a great fucking guy. I don't care if you're gay. Do you know what I'm saying? This is a great guy.
It's a certain misconception, because I think also, I do believe that, it's the ego that stops men, for instance, from having relationships with homosexual men because they think that the homosexual wants to potentially sleep with them, be with them, or whatever. It's from an ego. Like, dude, no, not every gay man wants to fuck you.
I think that was one of the big things that from that point I was still very fearful and offended when I was hit on by a gay person instead of just flattered. Like, if anyone finds you attractive, it's flattering. Just find it flattering.
Yeah.
Whereas not that I enjoyed being groped, the times that I have been groped.
Have you been groped?
Yeah, groped
I'm
outright.
sorry,
but men are pigs. It doesn't matter if we all are horrible, whether we're gay or not.
Some men are pigs.
No, of course.
I'm stunning,
of course.
Daddy.
But anyway, beyond that, I think that's difficult to accept, is this sort of fear that, like, I'm a straight male, please don't flirt with me, it's awkward, but it's equally awkward when a woman hits on me and I don't want to be hit on. Equally.
I think it's just about reading the room, hitting on someone, like playing. I mean, I've even messaged you saying, "Hey, Zaddy, look at you, you're looking good," or whatever, but it's not because
it's fun. It's playful.
It's fun. It's playful. It's not me wanting to get into your pants. It's me just saying.
I think you're also aware that you can say that to
Absolutely.
me, that I'm not going to get aggravated or offended or awkward.
And also because, terms of endearment, saying, hey, doll, hey, babe, hey, darling, it's not because of anything else. It's just because that's the conversation we have.
That's how you are conversationally.
With everyone.
Yeah, so just like I would say, hey, dude, that is my default, dude, bro, brah, very masculine, but that's my default. I wouldn't use that in a professional setting, just like you wouldn't use darling in a professional, but once you have a rapport with someone at all, you're able to use those sort of terminology during your discussion.
Taking it back, also to say groping is wrong 100% because that's really just assault. So whoever was groping you, screw them. Number two,
look, it happens,
of course.
and it's not right, and I wouldn't defend it in any way. That's groping is wrong. I think that it's what it did install in me is how much I disliked that. I never felt defenseless, and I think that's where I want to defend women's rights in that sense. Is that it happens to women daily. It happens to women all the time, and it must be terrifying when you feel like you're in that situation and you're defenseless or powerless.
Yeah.
Where I never felt defenseless or powerless in that situation. I felt offended. Do you know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, if I slap your hand away and it's like, if this were to turn into a physical altercation, I feel like I could handle this altercation.
Of course.
Because I'm a man. Whereas women, even if you're a strong woman, and it's a fairly weakling sort of guy, there's this mindset from the generalization of life where men are generally more physically strong than women, is how fear-inducing that situation is for a woman. So I think that I don't see that grope scenario that I was in as a negative thing, because it actually taught me a very good lesson.
Of course.
So I think that's the point of homosexual acceptance, is enough meeting people. Just meet people. They're good guys.
Yeah, I also think it's also, we spoke briefly on this before we came into the podcast. It's got to do with the idea of being exposed to it. There's a massive exposure to it. Once you're exposed to something like Corona, for lack of a better example, when you're exposed to it, then suddenly it becomes that exposure then mutates, for lack of a better example, and then suddenly you know about something. But the minute you don't know about something, you're going to judge it. You're not going to like it. And I'm not saying like gay people. I'm saying be accepting of something or whatever. But the minute that you're exposed to something, you chill. You chill. You then realize, like you did very early on, that this person is A, not attracted to me in a sexual way, for instance, or B, this person is not from the devil, or C, this person is not, a rapist or whatever, or a pervert. Forgive me, yeah.
That's the common thing. I like
the common thing.
Like as if straight people with children are more acceptable. Straight people who are child molesters are more acceptable than a homosexual, and that homosexuals are more likely to be child molesters.
Yeah, what a lot of shit.
Outrageous. I think that where it stands with me is that there's shitty people in all camps. And just because someone's homosexual doesn't make them shitty.
More shitty.
Yeah, doesn't make them more shitty at all.
Yeah.
Actually, if anything, you once again, the adversity that you face and you still continue to face as a community builds a lot of character in a way.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you. In all senses of the term. And all those minorities that are facing adversity.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of the religious element of it as well is very difficult, because religion can be positive from a community building standpoint and helping people feel accepted, but when it's attacking other people for that acceptance, it's completely wrong.
Yeah, I do.
And I think we're a society that doesn't necessarily need religion anymore. People should feel free to practice their religions and their faiths and things like that. But I don't think it has a place in society, in the social standing, because of the effects it has.
I do also think that, in a society where information is so easily acceptable, ignorance is really a choice. If you remain ignorant, it's because you choose to.
I think that there's a little bit of that. I think that you grow up in an echo chamber. You know what I'm saying? I feel like you almost can't blame the boys around you from your early high school before NSA for being not accepted, because that's what they're exposed to. And then when you're old enough to seek out information on the internet, you find the echo chamber that relates to what you already have as an installed belief system. And those people will continue to motivate your beliefs. You'll find other people who will continue to motivate. So I feel like it's almost difficult to say that the internet is going to help improve things. I think it already has to an extent, but in a way it's going to help it's also going to support the opposite side.
Agreed.
It's going to help people support their theories like, you see, here's the proof, here's the evidence, gay people are terrible. There you go. Here's a little piece of it. You're going to find that.
Says.
Yeah, it's like, it's what there's a whole group of 10,000 people on Facebook saying exactly the same thing, and they make such good points. I don't know if you're familiar with Ben Shapiro at all.
No.
He's a bit of a right-wing commentator from the United States. And what's funny about him is that he's Jewish and very intelligent. And he's a very right-wing commentator, which is odd because you'd find that the Jewish community would stray a little bit more to the left because they've been victimized by the right in the past. And he's very intelligent and he's a very good arguer. And he tends to argue against homosexuality, against transgender, against all of these things. And he's hugely intelligent. I wouldn't want to argue with him because I completely disagree with him. But in a way, I hate him more than someone who's ignorant because he's intelligent enough to
seek answers that are
beyond that. He's using that intelligence to be convincing in a way that is unhealthy, a way that is things. So I find him despicable. I really dislike him. A lot of people do like him. I think once he had an argument where he was saying that our society is perpetuating unhealthy living, where we are creating more homosexuals because society is celebrating homosexuality, so we're creating homosexuals where we wouldn't have been.
But he forgets that what he's doing is doing exactly the same thing.
I think in the other way that he's trying to create straight people. I don't think so. I think that he genuinely believes what he's saying.
No, but
because his argument is that if you went to an old age home today and you interviewed a bunch of 93-year-olds, you interviewed 193-year-olds, and you said to them, are you gay? Are you straight? Are you this? Are you that? 2 of the 100 would maybe openly say that they're gay, right?
Okay.
That they're homosexual. Okay, fine. So that's your finding. So for him, he would believe that is the acceptable percentage in society of a real, honest homosexuality percentage. And he said, if you asked a bunch of 17-year-olds today how many of them are homosexual or don't know or are bisexual or sexually open and how many are straight, you'd get into the 40% of people who are openly gay, for example, things like that. I have 2 big problems with that argument. Number one, 17-year-olds aren't supposed to know their sexual preference. They're not supposed to know where they stand because they're 17. They haven't formed that. And second of all, those people in their 90s have lived their whole life in fear of admitting that they're gay or things like that. They've grown up in a society where they were brainwashed. Yeah. So for him to argue the point that we are now brainwashing in the opposite direction isn't necessarily fair. But I think that he perhaps has a point of where there needs to be caution to this of, I think that homosexuality should be celebrated, but it needs to be celebrated along with being heterosexual. Transgender people need to be celebrated, but it needs to be celebrated along with all other choices. Do you know what I'm saying? I feel like, of course, it's offended to say that someone's not normal when they're choosing a lifestyle choice that isn't hetero straight. You know, like you identify with the gender that you assigned at birth and you're heterosexual. You know, so if that's normal, it's offensive to tell anyone else that they're not normal. But to try and convince and change people at any point because it's the in thing, that's also wrong. You know, and I think that creates actually
circle.
I think that it makes things worse so you have this really, really loud minority that are like trying to convert 8-year-olds, give them conversion classes because, you know, they could be transgender. So we need to start converting them at 8 years old. I think that's ridiculous. That's a ludicrous idea. I don't think anyone logical is going to agree with that. The problem with that is that you're trying to be so open-minded, so left-wing, so fucking woke that you actually are creating the people who are on the fence. You're forcing them onto the other side because they can't agree with you because it's so illogical. So now you're actually creating more bigots, more hatred towards the LGBTQ community because of this irrational, very loud minority that are trying to be so overly woke that it's unreasonable.
Absolutely.
So I think it's so positive to hear that people just want to be logical. You know, it's ridiculous to think that gay people should be treated any differently to straight people. It's ridiculous. But do we want mixed martial arts fighters for someone to say, I identify as a woman and now I'm going to go fight with a woman? Of course not. We don't want that. You know, that's now in the realms of ridiculousness. You know, not accepting that people have biological differences, that you can be biologically a male and biologically a female, and saying that that doesn't exist is ridiculous. And it's actually just hurting the acceptance of the real community.
I feel you, baby girl.
I'm speaking your ears off, and I'm sure you need to get going. We've been talking for a really long time.
I've enjoyed this, and I mean, we could sit here and chat for hours, I'm sure.
I'm sure we could. I'd love to invite you in again another time.
I'd love to come. Thank you very much for this.
Weslee Lauder, thank you so much. People, where do they find you who want to hit you up? Where do they get to go watch videos of you lifting incredibly heavy stuff and you dressed as the Trunch Ball? I highly recommend you go see how good Weslee looks as the Trunch Ball.
Thank you. You can check me on my gram and on all the social platforms or whatever at Weslee, Weslee, Lauder, Lauder. That's it.
Okay, everyone, thank you so much. Once again, this podcast was brought to you by Vodcast TV, Johannesburg's premier shared podcast studio platform. If you've ever wanted to get into podcasting, now is the best time. You don't need to know jack shit about microphones, cameras, lights, any of that. We handle all of that for you, and you can be a podcaster. Check us out, vodcasttv.com/revolution for 15% off your first order. Ladies and gentlemen, bye-bye.
Bye.